Okay, let's talk about adding integers. So yesterday in class, we talked about a couple different things. We talked about adding positive integers, so like 3 plus 5. We talked about adding negative integers, so negative 2 plus negative 4. And then we talked about adding integers that one is positive and one is negative, and some of the different rules that go with those. So we're just going to review right now how to add those different types of integers. So the first thing that I want to talk to you about is when they have the same sign. So if I have 3 and I add 5 to it, what's my answer? Well, I can model that on my number line. Well, actually, maybe not mine. It's not long enough. Let's see if I can add a little more here. But if I start at positive 3 and I move in the positive direction 5, because that's what this tells me, I'm moving in a positive direction 5, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I moved positive 5 in the positive direction. I started positive, so I'm ending positive. So my answer is 8. Okay, so now we want to talk about negatives. So what happens when I have two negative numbers? So if I have negative 2 plus negative 6. On my number line, what I want to do is start at negative 2, and then I'm going to move 6 in the negative direction. Okay, so we have negative 2, and we're adding a negative 6. So negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6. We can't really fit on our number line here. You can check the number lines in front of you in class. But what number I'm ending on, because I'm moving in the negative direction, is 6 plus 2, which is 8, and it is negative. I'm on the negative 8. Now, this works the same as if you're adding two numbers together or you're adding four numbers together. If they're all negatives, you're constantly moving in the negative direction. So if you want to think real world situation, if you owe somebody $2, then the next day you owe them another $1. Then the next day you owe them $2 more. How much do you owe them? Well, sometimes you'll see the parentheses. Don't let that confuse you. Sometimes we'll just put parentheses in there to show you that it's different than the addition signs, so you don't get confused between what's the addition sign and what's the negative number. So sometimes these are just put around numbers to show that. Now, if there was a whole problem in here, you always have to do parentheses first. But there's no problem. It's just a single number. So let's get back to our owing people money, unfortunately. So if you started with owing them $2, then you owe them another $1. Well, now you owe them $3. Then you owe them $2 more. Well, now you owe them $5. So your answer is negative 5. You're always moving. If these are all negatives, you're moving in the negative direction the whole time. Okay, now let's talk about adding integers that have positives and negatives in the problem. So if I have the problem, negative 3 plus 5. So I have a negative and a positive. Now, if I'm doing this on the number line, what I want to do is start at negative 3. So here I am at negative 3. Now, I'm adding a positive 5, so I am moving in the positive direction. I move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the positive direction, and my answer is 2. Now, what we talked about in class, the rule was when you are adding integers with different signs, you actually end up subtracting them. So 5, we have here 5 minus 3 is 2. Now that ends up being a positive number because if you take the absolute value of 5 and the absolute value of 3, 5 is larger, the positive number is larger, therefore your answer is positive. So let's try another one. I'll find my eraser here. Okay. Now, if we have, let's say we start at 5, and then we add a negative 7. See if you can think about in your head what it would be and why it would be that. So let's start at positive 5. Now we want to add a negative 7, so we're going to move in the negative direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you can see my final answer is negative 2. Well, what did I do? Here's what I did. I took my two numbers and subtracted them. Negative 7 and 5, when you subtract them, you get 2. Well, what's the operation going to be? Negative 7 has a larger absolute value because 7 as a whole number would be larger. Therefore, the answer is going to be negative. You're moving further in the negative direction than there are positives. Now, this would also work if I had a 3-part problem, like we talked about before. So, let's try this one. Okay, I'm going to put the parentheses around just to make sure we know the difference between our addition and where our negative numbers are. So, in this problem, what I'm doing is starting at negative 2. I'm going to add a positive 5 and then take away a 3. So let's move in the positive direction 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I'm at 3. Now I want to move in the negative direction 3. 1, 2, 3. And I find myself back at 0. Okay? What you could possibly do is combine the negatives. So negative 2 and negative 3 equal negative 5. Then I have a positive 5. Positive 5 and negative 5 would equal 0. But it works the same way on the number line. You still move up and down the number line with your numbers.